I always say you would never help politicians. It's always good to willfully instruct them. That's quite frankly the best way it is. And I think first we need to do is recognise that at the moment we have a situation where the right-wing press is completely dominating the entire view when it comes to the narrative around migrants. And we know that in 2019, as I said, I was quite proud because we felt that we were moving in the right direction. We had a situation where once refugees were here, within 6 months they would have the right to work regardless of whether they claimed being processed. Access to public services, an end to no recourse to public funds, treated humanely at all levels, scrapping and lowering the cost of all visas to cost all of those things which should have made things better, and understanding that actually whilst people are in this country, no matter how they've arrived, they can contribute actively to this country. And unfortunately we're at risk of the party falling victim to the hysteria that's being whipped up around the next general election, moving us backwards. So it's up to all of us to make those particular arguments and put about the right to work and put the Labour Party on the right track. Now, you've heard already about the moral arguments. I think they're so important. I think it's so important to have migrant domestic workers speak up for themselves. As you've heard already, those humane, those real stories really do put things into perspective. I don't believe that the general British public is as awful as our right-wing media make up overall. You hear some loud, vocal minority, but generally I do not believe that we are like that. And those human stories do make a difference. But at the same time, we need to, as I said, willfully push politicians in the right way. And one way I think to do this is to realise the power that migrants have themselves and the power they have to influence their communities and many of the campaigners. So, and I think find that common ground amongst all migrants who are currently, as Zoe pointed out, coming in one way or another under a hostile environment, be it with increased visa fees or being treated in a disgraceful way. And what many people don't always latch onto is the idea that if you are a migrant worker, regardless of your particular leave to remain, and you are from a Commonwealth nation, you have the right to vote in this country. You have the right to vote, and so many do not register to vote and do not vote at all. Now, according to the Migrant Observatory in 2021, these are some of the figures that came from different countries in terms of migrant workers. 896,000 from India, 456,000 from Pakistan, 312,000 from Nigeria, 298,000 from South Africa. All of those people would have had the right to vote in some way or another. And in 2017, the Labour Party came, just remember the numbers that I gave you, just 2,000 votes shy of winning that general election. Because of the way our electoral system works, it was 100 votes here, maybe 50 or 60 votes there in the smallest marginals, 100 votes here and there, but 2,000 votes. And in the 2017 election, in the last election, 2019 election, what happened was that the Tory vote share didn't actually go up. Labour's vote share went down because people voted for other parties or they stayed at home and they didn't vote at all. At this point in time, we're going to go under these new voter ID laws, and we're going to have a situation where there are large swathes of the community, yes, from large ethnic minority communities, and also from low socio-economic communities, you do not have voter ID that will be restricted from voting. But because of this government's current obsession with ID and hostile environment, guess who will have ID? Those migrant workers with their biometric residency cards. Every single one of them. Now think about all of the thousands of people that I've just told you about. And imagine if they were organised and registered to vote. And imagine if they went to those constituents and made clear and said, look, here we are a group of migrants. And this is not just in our big cities, we're talking about outside where we have migrant workers living or those who are supporting migrant workers. Are very, very clear. These are our numbers. We will make a difference as to whether or not you are elected in this constituency. And when that happens, you tell me if that will not make a difference to what politicians will do. As one myself, I can tell you very, very clearly, it really does motivate people if they know you are the difference between whether or not they hold their seat.